The LouieTeeNetwork is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up, take command. I, of course, am your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So, get straight to business tonight. We had this discussion, this very discussion a week ago. We talked about the visits. I asked, was this a smoke screen? Haven't heard of the Commanders, meeting with a lot of the top prospects, guys that we consider day one and day two prospects in this draft. A lot of homework being done, a lot of visits and private workouts being spent on guys that are going to be day three undrafted guys that end up being priority free agents. What was the deal? And somebody brought up a great point, and I brought this up in the last video that I did on Saturday night, that the Top Golf thing was still in play, one of those group meetings, one of those group visits like they did last year. I'd forgotten all about it. And I said, I wonder if that is what is about to take place. And sure enough, here we are. We spoke about it on Saturday, and now Monday we hear the announcement that the Commanders are having a group visit tomorrow with some of the top prospects in this year's draft class. And this is a heavy hitting group they're meeting with. I'm really excited about some of the names that we're about to talk about. And by far and away, it's the best crop of talent that the Commanders have had in for a visit thus far. Again, it kind of speaks to what we've talked about with the list of players that they've brought in. Again, I focus less on the actual players and more on the positions. But in this particular case, I am excited for some of the names that they are meeting with, because realistically, some of these guys could be available at 29, and there will be some decisions that have to be made. And so let's take a look now at the list, because we've gotten, some of the guys that'll be on this visit, and we're assuming it's to Top Golf again. We can't make that assumption, but that's where it was last year. I remember very vividly Adam Peters saying, look, like, this is our thing. This is what we like to do. And so maybe they're going to stick with that theme, have it at Top Golf again, bring all these guys in. We don't know the exact count, doesn't matter, but we do know some of the names of the guys that will be there. There could be 3 or 4 more guys that we don't know. But let's take a look at the list now of known visits for the Commanders. That list now is up to 18 names. So we're really starting to make some headway as we get closer and closer to the draft. I've highlighted some of the more prominent names that are going to be in attendance at this group visit that the Commanders are hosting tomorrow. Anthony Belton, offensive tackle out of NC State. Josh Connerly Jr., tackle out of Oregon. Connerly Jr., again, for the longest time was on this list as probably the top prospect that we knew we were going to meet with at some point. Belton is the second best tackle on this list of, tackles that you see here. They also have Wyatt Mealham on this list. I think a lot of people see him as a guard in this year's draft class, but again, I digress. Jared Christian Lightenhand is a tackle that probably won't be drafted. If he is drafted, it'll be 7th round, somewhere around that area. So again, when you see guys like Connerly and Belton on this list, I'd say Belton is somewhere around the 7th, 8th, 9th best tackle in this year's draft class. Keep in mind, not a great year for the tackle position. So you're already talking about a weak tackle class, and then a guy that's 7th or 8th, maybe 9th in that tackle class. Again, I'm not like over the moon, but I'm excited to see. And it kind of falls in line, as we talked about 18 names here of known visits for the Commanders, and at least 5 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them are offensive tackles, right? Out of 18. So it tells you that there's an emphasis there that they would love to add another offensive tackle to the mix. Donovan Aaraku is a name that really resonates with fans. I think since this process has started, he has probably been the biggest riser amongst fans in terms of the guy that fans are starting to really lock in on, hoping that he's available at 29. Like, I'm telling you right now, he'll be this year's he will be this year's Christian Gonzalez, right? Like, fans were all bent out of shape when Gonzalez, but I think a lot of us had already preconditioned our mind to thinking that Emmanuel Forbes was the pick. So some of us weren't surprised, but a lot of us wanted the pick to be Gonzalez because we knew he would be the better corner in the NFL. And when they passed on him, a lot of fans were upset. Similar to the 2022 draft, where they could have taken Chris Olave, traded back, ended up taking John Dotson. A lot of fans were pissed off, right? If they pass on Donovan Aaraku, if he's on the board to take another position, it'll be an interesting debate. I told you, whatever they do, I'm going to be on board with it 110%. I'm going to ride. You know, they've done nothing but press all the right buttons since they've gotten here, and they've got my full, pure, unequivocal support in whatever they do. Like, no equivocations. I might criticize this or that, but I'm riding. Y'all know how I do. So it'll be interesting because some of you will absolutely lose your shit if Donovan Aaraku is available and they pass on him for another position. So that's going to be an interesting one. But he's on this meet, and that's awesome to see because before then, as you can see the list, the best edge that was, on the list was Ashton Gelati. And I think he's more of a third-round selection. We don't have a third-round pick. I could see him going in the second. Just depends on when that run on edge rushers take place. But he's more of a third-round selection, if you ask me. So it's really interesting to see now Donovan Aaraku is a guy that you would take at 29, right? So now with these visits, you're starting to see names that make sense at 29. All of the guys that I highlighted here that are going to be at the visit tomorrow are all day 1 or 2 guys. Okay, so this is the first time we've seen this mass conglomerate of day 1 and day 2 prospects. Again, most of this list are either guys that are day 3 and not just day 3 prospects. You're talking late day 3 prospects or undrafted guys that'll become priority free agents. That's what we've been seeing a steady diet of. So, to see a Maxwell Hairston on this list, to see a Donovan Aaraku, these are guys that you could theoretically see them spending the 29th overall selection on. Those are first-round guys. Maxwell Hairston, cornerback out of Kentucky, Donovan Aaraku, edge out of Boston College, Josh Connolly Jr., tackle out of Oregon. These are all real options at 29. And it's the first time that we've really had those discussions. Quincy Riley is a guy that's been on this list for a while. We knew they were going to meet with him. We just didn't know when. Now we know he'll be in attendance tomorrow as well. He's more of that 61st pick overall in the second round. I look at him as a third-round pick. We don't have a third-round pick, but should they somehow find a way to finagle an option where they can get a third-round selection, I think that's when guys like Quincy Riley, his teammate Ashton Gelati start to come into play more so in the third round. Like, people keep talking about Oluwafemi Oladipo. I think that's more third round, fourth round. I really truly believe he'll be around in the fourth round, right? So I still look at a number of these guys that they're talking to, and I'm like, these feel like guys that you're hoping are around, because I don't see them reaching. This group doesn't strike me as a reach group. The only pick right now that feels like a reach, and we'll see. The jury's still out right now, is Ben Sinnott. And I still think he's got a bright future ahead of him, and he's going to be ultra productive, and he will warrant being a second-round pick. But right now, that's the only one that kind of feels a bit reachy. We'll see what Johnny Newton looks like in year 2, right? He was coming off of an injury, didn't have a full offseason. I've given him a pass already. Let's see what he looks like in year 2. So these are the names. So we're up to 18 now, and I want to talk about distribution quickly, and then we're going to get to some of these players, one in particular. So I talked about the tackles. There are 4 tackles on this list out of the 18 names. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, running back out of Arizona, who was also like the MVP of the East-West Shrine game or something of that sort, is a guy that is new to the list. Another running back. So, again, another interesting name. Again, late round or undrafted running back, right, is Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. So that makes me a little, I'm not going to front, it makes me a little nervous when I start to see some of these names at the running back position and some of the guys that they're talking to, because these are late round guys. But again, that's more for the crowd that's looking to replace B-Rob. I've been of the mindset of I'm down for whatever as long as you add speed, but I'm cool with just a guy to complement him in Austin Eckler. I'm cool with that. The replacement may not come till next year. But speaking of which, the most intriguing name on this list, if you are we have to replace B-Rob stan out there, right, is Ollie Gordon II, running back out of Oklahoma State. When I saw that name, I said, that, my friends, is a Brian Robinson Jr. replacement if I've ever seen one. Most people that I listen to comp Ollie Gordon II to Brian Robinson Jr., right? I mean, it doesn't get... Now, he's a much more instinctual, he's a much more natural running back. But when you talk about size, body type, build, they're carbon copies. Brian Robinson Jr. is 6'1", 6'2", 225. Ollie Gordon II is 6'1", 225. Ollie Gordon ran a 4.61 at the combine. Not sure what Brian Robinson Jr. ran, but it was somewhere in the 4.5s. I think he ran like a 4.54, 4.52, something like that. But Ollie Gordon plays faster than the 4.61. He's got much better instincts, feel, vision, feet. He's a much more natural runner. And when I think about, so this is the difference between, and I've been trying to have this conversation with you guys, when I think about a B-Rob replacement, because again, it's 2 different things. And I've said this to you guys numerous times, and they'll tell us kind of how they envision the season going and how they will fade, because this feels like Brian Robinson Jr.'s last year here. So there's a phase out that's coming. It's just, what does it look like? Is he still a massive part of this team's offense, or is he going to just be a guy that starts out as a part of this offense, but is phased out as the season wears on and he becomes less and less a part of what they're ultimately doing on offense? Now, if you draft a Damian Martinez, a Omarion Hampton, a Quinshad Judkins, a Caleb Johnson, a Cam Scatteraboo, a Raheem Sanders, these are Brian Robinson Jr. replacements, okay? You draft an Ollie Gordon II, that is a Brian Robinson Jr. replacement. That means B-Rob is on the roster, but by week 6, he's probably going to be reduced to mop-up carries, sort of like how Chris Rodriguez is, except B-Rob will probably be active on game days, right? But he will be reduced to mop-up carries if that young running back is ready to take on a full workload, right? Because you got to understand the likelihood, like this whole narrative, John Keim talked about this, everyone's looking for a 3-down back, but how many 3-down running backs actually truly exist in today's NFL? Like most NFL backfields are dual backfields. There are not a lot of teams that have Saquon Barkley's. Like, you want one of those, you got to draft Ashton Genty. You got to draft a back in the top 10 if you want one of those types of guys. Those don't grow on trees. Derrick Henry comes off the field for Justice Hill, right? Josh Jacobs comes off the field for the other back, number 31 in Green Bay. I can't remember his name, but like, you're sharing carries. Like, Josh Jacobs is getting most of the touches, but it's still another back that's getting some work. If you get what I'm saying, there's not a lot of guys that are 3-down backs who are touching it 28, 29 times a game, and there's not a lot of other opportunities. Like Christian McCaffrey, it was one of those dudes. He can't stay healthy. He can't stay healthy. Why? Because he's a 205, 207 pound back that is taking on this massive workload. That is not ideal. So if you draft a Travion Henderson, you have to use him like the Lions use Jahmyr Gibbs. You cannot put that kind of workload on a 205-pound back. You're asking for trouble. So what I'm telling you is that the likelihood is either they're going to draft a speedster that's 205, 207, 203, 200 pounds, 196. Someone that size to absolutely fly, right? Or they're going to actually draft. And that guy is going to be a compliment to Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson. So Brian Robinson is still going to get his 12 to 14 carries. Austin Eckler is going to get his 4 to 5 carries and his 6, 7 catches, whatever, right? 4 or 5 catches out of the backfield, whatever that looks like. And then the speedster will be integrated and depending on how the flow of the game goes and how things are happening and who's healthy, who's not, he'll see his, limited share, right? And as the season goes on, and if he's making big plays and they feel like we got to get this guy more opportunities, then you'll see a Basul Tootin have more opportunities to touch the ball, or RJ Harvey, or whomever they decide to draft, right? As that change of pace guy. Because that's more of an Austin Eckler replacement, right? If you draft someone of that ilk. Travion Henderson is more of an Austin Eckler replacement, not a B-Rob. And again, both of those guys are gone next year, more likely than not. So you're going to have to replace B-Rob at some point, whether it's this year or next. But if you're looking for B-Rob's replacement to be had this year, then you're looking for a Raheem Sanders. You're looking for an Ollie Gordon, someone of that bigger, more physically built stature, someone that's 217, 219, 222, 225 pounds, like a Caleb Johnson. That's what you're looking for. I don't know if he necessarily fits our offensive scheme because he's more of a zone running back, one cut and go type of back. But we have a little bit of that in our scheme as well. So that's the kind of back that you should be looking for if you want a B-Rob replacement this year. So Ollie Gordon is super interesting. And for me, with Ollie Gordon in particular, you got to go and watch his 2023 film. Now, I think his best game in 2024 was against BYU. That's a solid game to watch. But this guy was one of the best players in college football in 2023. Right? I mean, he rushed for over 1,700 yards. He had over 2,000 yards of all-purpose offense. Because he's also a guy that can catch it out of the backfield. Like, he did everything for Oklahoma State. So, 2024, the numbers were down big time because they didn't have a good quarterback. And teams just said, okay, we're loading up the box to stop Ollie Gordon, and we dare your quarterback to beat us, and they couldn't do it. So his numbers suffered because of it. But make no mistake about it, he's a difference maker, Ollie Gordon II is, right? He doesn't come with that speed that you're looking for, that we're all looking for. So if you were to draft him, he could take Brian Robinson Jr.'s place and be our bell cow running back, because I think everyone should, right? Like, if you can't have what Philadelphia has, and again, Saquon Barkley's don't grow on trees. Okay, so most teams aren't going to have what the Eagles have. You're not going to have that because you don't have Saquon Barkley, right? You don't have that offensive line, but you don't have that back. Everyone should be striving to have what Detroit has, which is what I think we want. Physical back in between the tackles, guy that can really wear on defenses. You get in that 4-minute offense and you get inside the red zone, or you get inside the 5-yard line, or you get into 3rd or 4th and short. This is the guy we're handing the football to. That's what Brian Robinson Jr. was supposed to be for us last season, and was early on in the year, was in the Detroit game, but really struggled throughout the year, especially late. Injuries to the offensive line, injuries to himself, and then, just the limitations that he has as a running back. They were on full display, right? You're going to have to draft his replacement at some point. This might be the perfect draft to do it. I could see an instance, and this is an interesting conversation. Let's put a pin in that. I'm going to pull that pin out here in a second. Let's finish talking about this list of top 30s. So Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is another new addition to the list. And David Walker, the edge out of Central Arkansas, is another new add to the list. I believe he may have already been on the list, but I believe he's a new add to the list. Another interesting name, smaller school prospect with some really, really interesting athletic traits. Ultimately, you see the list, you see the positions that they're interested in: tackle, edge, safety, corner, receiver. Like, you don't see any tight ends on this list, not a single one. Doesn't mean that they won't draft one, but it means it's highly unlikely. You don't see a single linebacker on this list. Now, you see Oluwafemi Oladipo listed as a linebacker. You see David Walker listed as an edge linebacker. You see, well, I think those are the only two that are listed as linebackers in any capacity. The other are defensive end / edge. All of these guys are edge rushers. None of these guys are going to, if they were to draft Femi Oladipo, they're not drafting him to be an off-the-ball linebacker. They're drafting him to be an edge rusher, right? So there are certain positions you just don't see. I'm not telling you that they're not interested at all. There's no way, 0% chance we're drafting a tight end. 0% chance that we're drafting a quarterback or a linebacker or off the ball linebacker, but the likelihood is those aren't positions that they're really worried about, right? Another one is defensive tackle. There's not one single. Aiden Huntington is a defensive end / edge / defensive tackle. He isn't a defensive tackle. Now, at 6'1", 285 pounds, I think he is. Could he possibly be? Sure, he could be, but he's not, right? Like, so I'm just telling you, there's certain positions that it just doesn't feel like they're going to draft, but it doesn't mean that they're not going. And again, this is that smoking gun conversation that I brought up with you guys the other day. But interesting as we continue to see this list take shape. But let's go back to the running back conversation with Ollie Gordon II. And something that I started to really think about seeing his name added to the list was, what if, because a lot of the names of the running backs that they've been sniffing around with speed are late round guys, undrafted guys that I think are going to be undrafted, I should say. And so what if they took a B-Rob replacement? Because Ollie Gordon can catch it. He's solid enough in pass protection, and he's a natural running back. They still like Austin Eckler. They brought back McNichols, right? Like, what if they just drafted a Brian Robinson Jr. replacement, and then, like, priority free agent wise, went and got like a Donovan Edwards or one of these guys that doesn't get drafted but can run, and added that guy via, priority free agency, and they doubled up at running back, because again, think about the running back position next year. They're going to take one this year, right? That's the assumption, that at some point there will be a running back added. But think about the position as a whole. There's nobody on this roster that is past the 2025 season in terms of a contract. Eckler last year of his deal. B-Rob last year of his deal. McNichols signed back to a one-year deal. Rodriguez is back on a one-year tender. Like there's nobody here next year at the running back position. So theoretically speaking, they could double down on running back. Take a Raheem Sanders, or in this instance, or in this exercise, you take a Ollie Gordon II, and you'd get a speedster, Marcus Yarns, undrafted, or Marcus Yarns in the 7th round. I highly doubt that they spend 2 picks on running backs. It'd be one that they drafted and then another that they got as a priority free agent. So one of these dudes, this Ja'Cory, Merritt guy that they, are having for a top 30, he might be at the visit tomorrow. All right. Like it could be someone of that, ilk. And it's going to be interesting to see how they go about the running back position, because I know they want more out of that position. We want, as fans, want more, because when you look at Jayden Daniels and you look at his skill set, we want to maximize Jayden, and the way that you help do that is by getting him more targets to throw the football to, which theoretically they've done already. They've gotten him some protection with Laramie Tunsil. They got him another target to get the ball to make his life easier. And Deebo Samuel, again, that's a 1-year Band-Aid solution. It feels like Tunsil feels more like surgery, which is what we needed. At the receiver position, it still feels like a Band-Aid solution. Doesn't feel like surgery, because you still will need someone next year. You're right back to square one next year if Luke McCaffrey doesn't step up. And that's the hope, is that he steps up. But you're right back to, damn, we need somebody next year if Deebo's one and done. But that's a conversation we can have next year, right? But the next thing that they can do this offseason to maximize Jayden is to get him a running mate in the backfield, like a game changer back there. Someone that when they go read option, you got to pick your poison. Like right now, if I'm a defense, I'd much rather Jayden Daniels hand the ball off to Brian Robinson Jr. I don't want 5 keeping it. I don't want to have to deal with his ass out in open space. Much rather you give it to B-Rob, and I'll take my chances stopping his big slow ass. Right? That's what I would be thinking if I'm a defender. I want them to have to pick a poison. You're going to die either way. So make a decision. If I hand it to this dude that runs a 4.3, 6, or I give it, let my quarterback keep it, who probably runs a 4.3 something, you got to pick. Either way, you dying, Holmes. That's what I want. That's what we want, right? Where you got a decision to make, and it ain't good for you either way. We want where instead of Jayden having to lead the team in rushing and having to do damn near everything, how about he turn around and hand it to somebody and they take some of the load and the burden off of his shoulders? That'd be nice. Well, you could do that at the running back position. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like for them. But Ollie Gordon II is interesting because I think every team is looking for Batman and Robin. Every team's looking for Hammer and, Thunder and Lightning, so to speak. Like Sonic and Knuckles. Every team's looking for someone to be the Brute and then someone to be the Flash. And Ollie Gordon would be the Brute. He would be an upgraded version of Brian Robinson Jr. And then you would still need that flash. You would still need that guy that at a blink, in a moment's instant, can take it the distance. If you draft Travion Henderson, Brian Robinson Jr. is still a massive part of this offense, whether you like it or not. You draft Amari and Hampton or a Raheem Sanders or someone like that, Brian Robinson Jr. becomes obsolete by week 7 or 8, which is what probably most of you want. So again, we'll see what they decide to do, how this goes. I'm just going to be honest with you. It feels like, and again, I'm going off of what happened in San Francisco, what happened in Denver, what happened in New England. Everywhere that he's been, he being Adam Peters, they have not poured first-round resources into the running back position. It's not something that they do, okay? And again, he wasn't in charge in any of those stops, but you'd be a fool to think that he wasn't influenced by his time in New England, his time in Denver, his time in San Francisco, and how things were done there. He has his own brain and he does things his way, but you'd be a fool to think that he didn't integrate some of those things into his style. Some of his philosophical beliefs didn't come from some of those stops. And in San Francisco, they rarely draft a running back before the 3rd round. That's right around the area where they like to take running back. Bill Belichick didn't believe in drafting first-round running backs. Hell, it wasn't very often he drafted 2nd-round running backs. I think they drafted Lawrence Moroney in the 2nd round, I think. But they didn't really believe in drafting, backs in the 1st round. Most teams don't. So it's going to take a special individual to be available at 29 for them to feel like that's the decision that best suits this team. And again, with all the value at the running back position, I just don't think Adam Peters is pressed to draft a running back at 29. I'm just telling you guys right now. So there could be a million guys that you love on the board at 29, and hell, even 61 now. 61 is a little bit different. And again, 61 is going to be really interesting if there's no 3rd round pick. Now you're forced to make a decision that maybe you don't want to make because there is no 3rd round selection. And there's a big gap between 61 and 118, which is where the Commanders' next selection is. It's a humongous gap. That's a lot of picks to be sitting out on the sideline, watching guys that you like being taken. You may have to make a decision to take a guy maybe a round earlier than what you would have done, but since you don't have it, you may have to. You don't have to make that decision at 29. You may have to make that decision at 61. So, again, something to think about. Something to think about. But I really think that when it's all said and done, they're going to look at edge rusher, and I'm telling you, the best value in the 1st round is edge rusher. I've said it before. I'll say it again. That's what it feels like it's going to be. And the question will be, who's available? Who's available? All right. Everyone knows the Ravens are interested in edge rusher. It's hard to see a guy like Donovan as Aaraku getting past the Ravens, who draft right before we do. We're not moving ahead of the Ravens. It's just a newsflash, right? Either he falls to us or he doesn't. So, if anything, we'd be looking to get out of 29, not to trade up. So, again, somebody's going to fall at edge rusher. Someone's going to fall. Pierce, Michael Williams, Donovan Aaraku. Someone's going to be available that this team is smitten with. And that'll be a decision, maybe along with tackle. Again, I always find it hard to believe that tackles fall. Generally they don't in drafts. Usually tackles go because every team needs offensive line help every year, right? 6, 7 tackles usually go 4, no less than 5 usually go in the first round. You'll see guards and things of that nature this year, Tyler Booker and guys like that are interior offensive linemen go in the first round. But there could be a Josh Connolly or someone of that nature, available. They'll have a decision to make. Corner's another position that falls in drafts a lot of years. I don't think they have any interest in a Jayden Barron, but maybe they do. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. Maybe Barron's gone and that allows a Maxwell Hairston to fall to you. Don't know. Hairston's undersized, but boy, does he find the football. And you don't want to go down the Emmanuel Forbes Jr. road again, where you're so starved for turnovers that you're overlooking the traits and the measurables that you tend to lean on at the cornerback position, because he's small, man. He's 5'11", $183. He doesn't want to tackle. He doesn't love run support. Like, I like Maxwell Hairston. I don't love him. I'll be honest with you. I don't love him. And I still have PTSD. So I'd rather you find me a corner that looks the part. But boy, can he go get it. All right. The 6 interceptions, the last 2 seasons, 3 of them pick sixes, sounds a lot like Emmanuel Forbes. I think he's a better football player because Forbes couldn't play man coverage, and we knew it. You could see it. He was his own corner. And this guy, he can definitely play some man coverage too. But with some of the issues we had last year, stopping the run, with run support from our corners and guys tackling in the secondary, I'm wary of that kind of stuff right now. So anyway, I digress. I'll just tell you this much. There's going to be some decisions that have to be made that are going to be really interesting. It would help a whole hell of a lot if they could find a way out of the first round. But I'm not holding my breath. I've already told you, we talked about this on the last episode. Jason Light, I played you the soundbite from him talking about how, in past years, the phone was ringing and he might have been himself looking to trade back, but this just doesn't strike him as that type of year where you're going to be able to get out. He said you're not going to get the compensation that you feel like you should be getting, because the draft kind of levels out. Like, just stick and pick. That's what it feels like a lot of teams are going to be forced to do. So something's going to have to be done. And we'll see what the Commanders decide to do. Just a side note, and this could be the reason that they're bringing Ollie Gordon in. Again, seems like a good dude. He did have a DUI in July. So something, to know. I'm not going to act as if this group is the last group where you had to be a Boy Scout and you had to have 9 medals and you had to walk the cleanest of clean lines to be drafted. But again, they've made it abundantly clear what they're looking for. You don't have to be a captain, but they sure as hell would love it if you were, right? But at a bare minimum, you got to be a guy that they feel like you're going to assimilate well to the locker room. So, we'll see what they decide to do, right? But I digress. Let's get to the comment section. We got one comment, and then I'll get you guys out of here. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Video channel. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Lou, you check out Florida defensive tackle Desmond Watson yet? No, I haven't gotten to defensive tackles yet. I'm on corners right now. And then after corners, I'm getting to defensive tackles in the defensive line. So eventually, if he's on the list, I will get to him. I'll make it a point of emphasis to get to him so that when they get to the defensive tackles, you can ask me about him and I would have watched him and I'll give you my opinion on him. But haven't gotten to that position group yet. Kind of saving the best for last. I think it's probably the deepest position group in this year's draft class on the defensive side of the football. So I'm kind of saving that for last so I can just kind of immerse myself in the defensive tackles because I expect a bunch of them to come off the board in the first 2 days of the draft, which is when I'll be my most active. So I want to be really well versed in the defensive tackle language this year. So haven't gotten to them yet, but trust me, I will. So we'll see what happens. But do me a favor, if you haven't already done so, like the video, subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Share the videos and help this channel grow. Can't thank you guys enough for the support. But with that said, no more comments. Going to exit stage left. Tomorrow, I will wrap up the tight end position, and then we will transition to corners. And from there, we'll go, and then we'll knock out the defensive tackles. Then we'll start having those mock draft discussions, and that'll take us right into the draft. Tomorrow, we should be live with the Commanders Kings. So keep your ear out for that. I can't say that that'll definitely happen, but more likely than not, it will take place. So just be on the lookout for that. I will have a podcast episode tomorrow as well. So I'll be very busy tomorrow. Hopefully, I'll catch you guys around. We'll hear about these visits. If anything comes up that's noteworthy, I'll jump on. We'll do a video about it. But if not, I'll probably be back live with you guys probably Wednesday night, more likely than not. If nothing else transpires, we'll have some sort of conversation on Wednesday night. But until then, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. Look forward to chopping it up with you guys next time. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Until next time, you guys have a good one. Take care. God bless and good night.